So, even though it is on my bucket list, I have not ever rode a hot air balloon, but I do know how it works. Do you? Well, whether you do or not, we're going to discuss it. And to kick it up a notch, we're going to make a rocket out of a tea bag. Yeah. So just like a regular rocket, we are going to be using a flame, so we should be wearing our safety equipment. So to start, we have a just normal regular tea bag. And we are going to cut off the top and empty out the tea. You can see it's kind of like this cylinder shape. Now you want to use something like a ceramic plate or something that won't burn easily. It won't stay. You want to try to cut the tea bag as smooth and straight as possible so that it'll easily stand up. Let's try this again. Okay, so after a little bit of difficulty, I was able to get it to stand up straight. And now we are going to light both sides of the cylinder. The flames will travel down together and the bag will not go anywhere. Well, good thing I brought two bags. Let's pull this sucker back and try this again. Try to get both sides this time. Fingers crossed. Go, 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 go. Yes, and you can see it lift off in the air, and then the flame dies and it cools and falls back down. Okay, so we're going to try experimenting a little bit. I didn't really like the way that the other two bags went, so I'm going to try a fancy bag. So most tea bags look like this. They're a little bit more pentagon shaped, and they have a string, and this one is just a square. Now, I thought that this one might trap the air a little bit more since there's no opening at the top. Well, that one stayed in there for quite a while. Okay, so now we're going to try 5 at a time. And this back one is green tea. Maybe it'll give it some extra energy. Let's try it. Ooh, well, those ones went up really well. All the way to the ceiling. Oh, I'm gonna have ashes all over the place. So I decided to take off my safety gloves because they were getting in the way and almost catching on fire themselves. So in this instance, it was making it less safe, and it's all about what is most safe for you and your experiment. So how does this happen? How did we make a rocket out of a tea bag? Well, as the flames moved down the tea bag, it trapped air inside, and that air warmed up from the flames. And as we've learned before, warmer molecules expand and they move farther apart, and this makes them less dense. Do you remember our lava experiment? Just as the oil was less dense and sat on top of the water, the warmer air is less dense than the cooler air around it. So it's going to try to be on top of it and it's going to float its way up. And as it cooled, it floated back down where all the cool air was. You've heard of warm air rises, right? Well, that's what's happening. The warmer air is just trying to rise above the cooler air. Now, this is the same concept as the hot air balloon. The air inside the balloon is getting heated by a very large flame. And when that air heats, it rises. And this is why it's usually early in the morning, because that's when the air is the coldest. Because if the air outside was as warm as the heated air inside the balloon, well, it's not going to lift up very much, is it? And now, the God part. What does this have to do with God? Well, I'm sure you've heard of warm-hearted or cold-hearted people, right? A warm heart is someone who's nice and caring. And a cold heart is the opposite, somebody who just doesn't care. If you're cold-hearted, you'll be weighed down. But if you're warm-hearted, you'll feel lifted up and free. So, be a good, warm-hearted person just as God would want you to be. And until next time,